Right now, everyone thinks that the system's robust, but I think that we'll have another bear market.
What do you think would precipitate the beginning of something like that?
Bitcoin was invented off the back of 2008 world financial crisis, and we've never seen the business cycle.
Where do you think we are in the business cycle?
On the verge. It's not just one, it's key macro indicators that all point to this. Everything will be stress tested. And I'm not saying just Bitcoin and crypto, I mean world financial markets. Maybe we get a 80% drawdown like last time.
Do you think any assets will withstand a market crash in prices?
Bitcoin's great for a long-term investment, not short-term. I know this is not a maxi answer, but the reality is
Archie.
only a few people saw some of the what happened in 2022 as everything unraveled. Right now, everyone thinks that the system's robust, but I think that we'll have another bear market, and if we get a stress test, let's see what breaks.
What do you think will precipitate another bear market? Because at the moment, we haven't really had any kind of euphoria in Bitcoin. It's just been, leg up consolidation 3 times over now since the bottom of the bear market. And so that, I guess, indicates to me that there isn't any kind of excessive exuberance, confidence, rather optimism about the future. And so I don't personally see a reason for the kind of bear markets that we've seen in the past. But how do you see that, and what do you think would precipitate the beginning of something like that?
I think that where we are in global macro, and people talk about the everything bubble. I think if that turns and the everything bubble pops, and the last time was 2008, before that was 2001, the dot-com crash, then everything will be stress tested. And I'm not saying just Bitcoin and crypto, I mean world financial markets. Liquidity is going to pull out of the system, buy-sided liquidity. No one will want to buy. They want to run to safety. It's called a flight to safety. Everyone runs to the US dollar, and then gold afterwards. You can see gold starting to rip, right? That's telling you warning bells on the economy.
It's been happening for almost 3 years now. So gold and Bitcoin bottomed around about the same time. I think gold may have preceded the Bitcoin bounce. Maybe they happened at the same time. I can't quite remember. But they've been rising.
Yeah, because like gold's and it's in a divergence, and very seldom. It's a very, very, very seldom you see this kind of divergence with gold and the rest of the economy. And last time was the year 2000, before the dot-com crash. Before that was 1971, the stress test that created fiat. And before that was 1929.
So we're now seeing long lines of people outside of gold dealerships, or whatever they're called, to buy gold bullion.
Yeah.
Is that a top sign or signal? Because
I
we're
think
suddenly seeing quite a pullback, right?
Yeah, I think gold's going to cave as well, like it does in a flight to safety. If we have any structural sort of breaking of the TradFi markets, it'll be like 2008, a little bit like that, a bit like 2001. Well, 1929, well, I don't think it'll be 1920. 1929 was the Great Depression, everybody. Right, the markets are quite different now, but that's what gold's telling you if you're a gold trader. So,
do you think gold will be impervious to?
No, it'll pull back. It'll pull back. Gold. I got my ass handed to me in 2008. I was long to the gills gold. It was the right bet, but you forget that when the whole thing unravels, everyone runs to the US dollar. They sell everything, unwind all their positions. It's called deleveraging. Dollar goes to the roof, in relative, the Dixie goes to the roof. Gold strength relative to other markets. Dollar strength relative to other markets go through the roof, meaning that you can buy more with your dollar. And then, gold was the first to recover, and it went on all the way out to 2000 to the 3 to 4 year perpetual bull market. So, gold is the right asset in this time. And we want to see how Bitcoin performs. It's a really good test because now we've got institutions here and we've got global macro investors and traders in there. How does it perform? Is it going to perform like the NASDAQ, or will it perform like gold? Because we say it's got the properties of gold. In my opinion, it's got more. It's what gold wanted to be. But it takes time. 16 years is not long enough.
So what do you think? Do you think there is a difference between a reaction to the crisis and a response after the crisis has emerged? And do you think that we'll see any kind of difference to what happens with Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin is very liquid, so it's prone to being liquidated in a crisis, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, like the 6 or 8 weeks afterwards.
Well, I just see Bitcoin as going into a normal standard bear market. Like everyone thinks it's strong, and it is. And the investors are strong, like institutional, MicroStrategy, these types of companies are holding it. So there's strength there. But if we get a pop in the global asset bubble, then that impact will pull it down, and that maybe we get a 80% drawdown like last time, and it's like just another 4-year cycle from the view of being inside Bitcoin. But from the view outside, it's a totally different thing. Look, it just did its normal thing against a stress test. So
80% from these levels would be catastrophic on the charts, though, right? It would look like the entire 16-year chart is breaking down. It would, because we're talking about going back down to 80% from here would be about $35,000.
If it holds above 16,000, the bottom of the next bear market is structurally intact because it's higher than the last bear market. And we shouldn't look at tops either. Tops are very unstable. The bottoms are very much closer to the fundamental investors. Generally, it doesn't drop below 20% of the capital stored in the network. It's very close. The tops are sometimes 3 to 5 times more than the capital in the network. So at the bottoms and how that performs, if it drops below 16,000, then that'd be a little bit freaky, But that can happen. It can rebound. Yeah.
You posted recently that Bitcoin has been operating thus far with 2 overlaid cycles, the Bitcoin cycle and then the broader monetary or macro cycle.
Yeah.
Where do you think we are at the moment with those 2? And do you think one is taking precedent over the other?
I talked about 3 cycles.
Okay, I missed that.
There's a halvening cycle, which is we all know the halvening, the supply shock. There's a 4-year liquidity cycle, which is central banks printing money on a 4-year cycle. And so that's been Bitcoin for 16 years. And then the last cycle was the business cycle. And Bitcoin was invented off the back of 2008 world financial crisis, which was the last ending of the last cycle. And those are the 3. And we've never seen the business cycle. And this is what I'm alluding to in this conversation. So,
where do you think we are in the business cycle?
On the verge.
On the verge of breaking down?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
The economic indicators have fired. Henrik Zeberg does a lot of this work, and I've seen his data and his signals, and it's very compelling. It's not just one; it's key macro indicators that all point to this. So the question is when, not if. And this was very clear to investors in 2007 as well. The indicators were clear. Gold was starting to rise. The numbers were looking bad. People were starting to put positions on banks. It wasn't a surprise, actually, to a lot of investors. It took the rest of the world by storm because everyone was sleeping at the wheel. The whole thing was over-leveraged.
I remembered 2008 and 9 market crashed through the property cycle in the United States. The market crashed in property as well. And it took some time before the policy response to the market crashes actually took effect. And from my recollection, it was something like an $800 billion bailout, which was such a fantastically enormous sum at the time that when they later asked Obama's advisor, how'd you guys arrive at that number? They said, we just picked a number that we thought would instill confidence. So I guess they didn't want to go to $1 trillion back then. And, the meme that Lynn Alden has been perpetuating, nothing stops this train. And so the assumption that what I guess all of us Bitcoiners have bought into was quite literally the policy response to a crisis will be the same. They will print out their way out of it. There is no other policy response that they will be brave enough to take. But between the time of recognition of a crisis, markets, which is what I was alluding to before, there'll be a market crash, and then it's the behavior within that period. And then there's the response, the policy response, and then the asset and market response to that. And I'm wondering, do you see a differential between how various assets will respond during that crash and then how they will respond to what we believe is an inevitable policy response of printing more money?
I don't understand the question, actually.
I'll ask it more simply. Do you think any assets will withstand a market crash in prices?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Fiat, US dollar, Swiss franc. I know this is not a maxi answer, but the reality is, because when we talk about Bitcoin, is the thing that's going to win out of this, we're talking over a period of 10 years. Short-term volatility is what it is. Like, what was it? It was like was it a 2-3 month pullback in gold, and the flight to safety, everything unwinds. You got to wait for this whole thing. It's just like what happened a couple of weeks ago. Everything's dumping, and then it bounces back and mean reverts. The smoke's cleared. It's still clearing. It takes 1 month to structurally repair that. And so, like, in the short term, if you want to do timing games, you be in dollars. And you try to buy the bottom, like buying the bottom of the COVID dip, But this will be slower, right? Because it's global macro. But nothing like the short term, the dollar, Swiss franc, these currencies that are considered safe, right? And then after that, buy whatever you want, whatever you understand, whatever you've done your research on. For me, it's Bitcoin because I've done the research on that.